Welcome everybody, this is Gaby and I'm back for another story. I thought it would be a cool idea for me to share this story now that I'm currently in my new living room and I'm trying to hang some pictures, and I just saw a picture of my grandmother who I hold very dear to my heart. I love very much. She was a rock when she was in my life. Unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago. 12 to be precise, so it's a long time ago, but I still remember her and I miss her so much. As some of you may know, my name is Gaby and I suffer or I battle against anxiety. I've been diagnosed, I was diagnosed a long time ago while I was in college, and my anxiety can depend a little bit depending on the case. It can vary. Going back to my story, when I was in high school, I was in my last year of high school. I was preparing to go to prom. It was such a big event. I was so excited to go. As any 17-year-old girl, probably, yeah, I was 17. That's all we could think about. Prom, who we were going with, our dates. And so, it was a very awesome, very cool moment in my life. I still think about those days and I reminisce, thinking a lot about the things I could have done differently. But I also remember my grandmother because she was a huge part, a character in my life while I was in high school. And so I wanted to share this particular story. When I was preparing for prom, the day of my prom, I woke up that morning, I was getting ready, I went to the salon, was getting my hair done, my nails, makeup, everything. And suddenly I get a phone call. My date, who was going with me to the prom, he had been skating with his friends and accidented himself. So I guess he fell from, I don't even know the name of these things, but he was, jumping and creating silhouettes and doing cool stuff, and he fell. And so he broke his ankle, and ankle, is that how you pronounce? And so he calls me, he's like, hey, I am so sorry to break the news to you, but I'm right now with my parents in the hospital. The doctor's saying that I'm not gonna be walking anytime soon. I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna be able to go with you to the prom. Mind you, I was already getting ready, and being an anxious person, I started freaking out. I thought this was the end of the world. My prom was ruined, my party was ruined, and so I simply decided not to go. My family convinced me otherwise. They said, why would you get ready? Why would you do all of this and decide not to go last minute just because you don't have a date? For me, it was a big deal, but for my family, it wasn't. So they sort of convinced me to go. And so I was getting ready. It was already maybe 6 p.m., 7 p.m. I was putting on my dress, not knowing exactly what was going to happen. Next thing you know, I simply have this panic attack. I start freaking out in the kitchen. I'm like, I'm not gonna go. I was already dressed and everything, but I just couldn't get over the fact that I didn't have a date and I didn't want to go alone. In my town, having a date for your prom is a big deal, and I'm sure around the world as well. I'm sure I've never, I don't have any other perspectives other than my own. And so, in my town, in my school, just in my circle, it was such a big deal. The pressure was on. And so I couldn't get out of my own thoughts, and I was having a mental breakdown in the kitchen. And I was like, I'm not going. By this time, it was already 8:30, and I was supposed to be already on my way because there was like a ceremony prior to the party that I had to attend to as a student. And so I didn't. I simply ran to my room, took off my dress, took off my shoes, and started crying. I got in bed and I didn't want to know anything about anyone. I just didn't want anybody to talk to me, knock on my door, anything. Next thing you know, my grandmother knocks on my door. She comes and sits in my bed and she's like, if you think that I'm gonna let one of my granddaughters have a mental breakdown because she doesn't have a boy to go with her to the party, you're nuts. You're getting up and you're going with me. So I'm like, I'm not gonna go to prom with my grandmother. And she's like, well, if you don't want me to go, then at least you have to make it there by yourself and have fun. I don't know, it took her 20 minutes to convince me, sort of more like push me and order me. And so after the 20 minutes, I get up, get dressed, put on my shoes, go downstairs, and she had already arranged a pickup for me, a taxi that was gonna pick me up and then also bring me back home, which was really cool. And I just cherished this moment because it was just my grandmother and me sitting at the dining table, and she had poured 2 shots of, you know how Mexicans have tequila and Brazilians have cachaça, I think. In Peru we have pisco. So she had poured 2 shots of pisco, and then she just toasted with me. We had 2 shots. I was underage, but she didn't care. She's like, you are gonna need courage, and also you're gonna need to get warm because it was cold. So we take 2 shots, and she's like, all right, you go have fun. And I hop on the taxi, I go to the party, and I'm freaking out, and I'm like, all right, I can't fail my grandmother. I already told her I was gonna go. So I had a very small Cinderella moment when I got out of the taxi, and the security guards opened the door for me, and I had to make an entrance, go down the stairs, and actually enter the party. And so everybody was staring at me, and I was so nervous, but I remember thinking, what the hell? You know, and like my grandmother had told me, you shouldn't need somebody to have fun, you know? So I go upstairs, and I realized at that moment that everything that I was worried about didn't exist. All my friends were so happy to see me. They all came to hug me, welcome me, and the party was already happening. So I just simply joined them and had the best night, one of the best nights of my teenage years. So there you go. That's such a happy moment. You can even tell how happy it makes me to remember her that way. I always try to apply her lessons and blessings and sort of teachings to everything I do in my life. And yeah, it's such a good memory. I hope that maybe if you ever find yourself in a moment where you need courage to do anything, this story can inspire you, and also to make you realize that there are some things that you can definitely do alone, and those thoughts, those fears that you have in your head most likely will disappear, and everything will be fine. So yeah, have a good day. I'll see you next time for another story. Bye bye.